First sparks of war. The Galactic Council had watched countless disputes flare across its star-spanning territories. To them, border wars were routine matters, settled with stern resolutions and measured sanctions. Humanity, however, was still a curiosity, barely 2 centuries removed from its first awkward leaps into interstellar travel, still regarded as loud, ambitious newcomers. When the Thal'kreen Dominion seized a human colony on the fringe of Council-recognized space, the chamber erupted not with outrage, but with amusement. To most species present, the matter seemed trivial. The humans would protest, then yield, just as dozens of younger races had before them. The Dominion's fleets were vast, its war engines older than Earth itself. The outcome appeared inevitable. Yet, Earth did not bend. Within days of the invasion, transmissions reached the Council floor. The United Terran Fleet was mobilizing. Civilian industries converted overnight into wartime production. Human leaders declared that no colony would be abandoned, no citizen left unavenged. The first skirmish shocked even neutral observers. Dominion warships, heavily armed and armored, were harried and broken by smaller Terran vessels using tactics no Council strategist would have considered. Swarms of drones, coordinated decoys, and boarding actions carried out with ruthless precision. Losses were heavy, but the humans pressed on, turning each defeat into a lesson learned. In the Council chambers, silence grew uneasy. Predictions of swift human surrender were replaced by worried calculations. The Dominion's fleets were bleeding, and Earth showed no sign of stopping. An elder delegate murmured words that few took seriously, yet they lingered in the chamber's air. These humans, they fight not for territory or prestige. They fight as though war is carved into their bones. If they retaliate, it will not be restrained. The first sparks of war had been struck, the weight of old wars. The Council assembled in private chambers, reviewing what little was known of Earth's past. The Thal'kreen Dominion's ambassadors demanded intervention, insisting humanity be crushed before their defiance spread. But before votes were cast, the archivist presented a troubling history. Unlike most species, Earth had never known long centuries of peace. Their rise was built upon conflict, tribal wars, empires clashing, revolutions, and 2 world-spanning conflicts that scarred their planet within a single lifetime. Even after reaching the stars, they had not shed this legacy. Humanity had practiced every form of battle, on land, sea, air, and now in space. The Council delegates shifted uneasily as images scrolled across the chamber walls. Burning cities, shattered armies, civilians enduring siege after siege. The scale of destruction dwarfed anything in living memory. Where other species saw war as ritualized, contained, or honorable, humans had made it absolute. A Kelnari scholar, older than most stars in the room, issued a quiet warning. Do not mistake them for primitives. Their weapons may be crude by galactic measure, but their minds are sharpened by centuries of killing. They have perfected the art of survival through struggle. The words were met with disdain. The Dominion's envoy sneered, calling the humans reckless savages who would collapse under a true campaign. Several Council members chuckled, dismissing the scholar's alarm as outdated paranoia. Yet others remained silent, troubled by what they had seen. They remembered the footage from the first skirmish, the way humans adapted in hours what took other species years. Something about their ferocity stirred an unease that no one wished to voice aloud. The vote concluded with indifference. The Council would not interfere. The Dominion was free to press forward. The warnings drifted into silence, unheard, until it was too late. The first blow. The Thal'kreen Dominion advanced with confidence, dispatching a fleet large enough to crush any young species. Their warships, black-hulled and bristling with plasma cannons, swept into the contested system expecting submission. What they found instead was resistance unlike any they had faced in centuries. Human ships were smaller, less armored, and fewer in number. Yet they did not fight as the Council expected. They struck in coordinated packs, vanishing into asteroid fields, then reappearing at impossible angles. Terran pilots pushed their craft beyond design limits, treating void combat as though it were a desperate duel rather than a ritualized exchange. In the battle's opening hours, human forces feigned retreat, drawing Dominion cruisers into a dense debris field seeded with hidden drones. Swarms of autonomous machines surged from the rocks, attaching themselves to hulls, cutting through plating, and detonating from within. Entire warships went dark in minutes. Then came the boarding actions. Human marines, clad in armor patched together from both Terran steel and scavenged alien alloys, stormed Dominion vessels. They fought with relentless aggression, using tools as weapons, welding torches as blades. Many died, but each assault ended with the Dominion losing another ship. Council observers watched in silence as reports reached the chamber. Casualty ratios, expected to be 10-1 in favor of the Dominion, were reversed. The humans bled heavily, but they would not break. Every loss hardened their strategy. Every death fueled their resolve. By the battle's end, the once proud Dominion fleet limped from the system, half its number destroyed. Humanity had not merely defended its colony. It had humiliated a power older and richer than itself. For the first time in generations, the galaxy witnessed a truth it had forgotten. War fought without restraint. And Earth had only begun. Fire across the stars. The Dominion, stung by defeat, gathered its full strength. Fleets the size of small moons advanced, banners of conquest blazing across the void. To their commanders, the campaign was no longer about suppressing rebels. It was about restoring pride. The Council watched with weary amusement, convinced the humans' first victory had been luck, nothing more. But Earth was ready. Factories across the solar system thundered day and night, converting every ounce of metal into warships, drones, and ammunition. Civilian freighters became gunboats. Mining rigs were armed with rail cannons, and orbital yards birthed ships in frantic cycles. Humanity's message was clear. This was no limited skirmish. It was survival. The second wave of battles shocked the galaxy. Terran fleets did not meet the Dominion in neat formations. Instead, they struck at supply depots, ambushed fuel convoys, and turned communication hubs into smoking wrecks. The Dominion's strength meant little when every lifeline was severed. Then came Earth's most brutal weapon, planetary strikes. Nuclear warheads and tungsten rods rained from orbit, flattening Dominion military cities in minutes. Worlds that had stood untouched for centuries burned under skies lit with fire. Civilian populations screamed across the networks, and for the first time, the Dominion trembled. In the council chamber, silence reigned as reports cascaded in. Casualty numbers climbed into the billions. Entire fleets that once patrolled half the galaxy, were now wreckage adrift in void. Delegates shifted in their seats, horrified not only by the scale of the destruction, but by the will behind it. Humanity did not fight for conquest nor prestige. They fought with a singular, merciless purpose, to ensure no one would ever dare strike them again. And with every battle, their legends spread like wildfire. The silence of the council. The council chamber, once a place of ceaseless debate, now felt like a tomb. Delegates sat in their high seats as streams of footage played across the vast central display. Burning Dominion cities, fleets reduced to drifting carcasses, and soldiers fighting with a savagery alien to the chamber's sensibilities. There were no speeches, no interruptions. Only the low hum of translation devices filled the silence. For the first time in living memory, the great assembly of galactic powers was stunned into wordlessness. The Dominion envoy, ragged and trembling, demanded aid. His pleas echoed through the chamber, desperate and raw. They burn our worlds. They slaughter without pause. Does the council stand idle while a primitive species dismantles one of its own? But no one answered. The other delegates kept their gazes fixed on the floor or the images above them. The truth was undeniable. Humanity had waged a kind of war none of them remembered. The council had forgotten what it meant to fight for survival. Earth had not. One elder rose slowly, her voice barely more than a whisper. We called them children. But children do not strike with such fury. We thought them weak. Yet their weakness is what honed them. Her words lingered, but no one dared challenge them. A vote was proposed on intervention. Only a handful raised their crests, fins, or claws in favor. The majority abstained, their silence more damning than opposition. To act against Earth now was to invite that same unrelenting wrath. And so, by choosing nothing, the Council sealed its stance. The Dominion stood alone, its empire collapsing. Humanity's message had been heard, and it left the galaxy paralyzed, unable to even speak its name without unease. Lessons in blood. The Dominion's fleets broke apart like glass under a hammer. System by system, world by world, humanity advanced, not with measured campaigns, but with relentless strikes that never ceased. Their ships did not retreat for regrouping. They learned, adapted, and pressed forward. Each loss was repaid tenfold. Refugees flooded into neutral space, desperate to escape the burning core worlds. They carried stories that spread like wildfire, of Terran warships appearing from nowhere, of orbital bombardments that turned night into endless dawn, of soldiers who fought until their last heartbeat. Even the Dominion's propaganda channels faltered under the weight of undeniable devastation. Captured Dominion officers stood trial in hastily constructed courts, broadcast galaxy-wide. The proceedings revealed centuries of abuse, enslavement of weaker species, brutal conquests, and casual atrocities long ignored by the Council. Now, humanity used those crimes as justification for the ferocity of their campaign. The message was clear. Earth did not merely fight for its colony. It fought to make an example. No empire, however ancient, could strike at humanity and expect mercy. In the council halls, whispers grew louder. Delegates who once mocked Earth now spoke in hushed tones, fearing even to utter the word Terran. Neutral powers signed quiet pacts of non-aggression, hoping to secure their survival should Earth's fury ever turn outward. When the last Dominion capital fell, humanity did not plant flags or claim dominion. Instead, they left ruins behind, forcing the survivors to remember what had been lost. The war was not conquest. It was a warning carved into the stars themselves. The galaxy had received its lesson in blood. To cross Earth was to invite extinction, a new order. When the last Dominion fleet shattered, a strange calm followed. Across the galaxy, species expected humanity to seize worlds, annex territories, and crown itself a new empire. But the Terran response was different. Earth's leaders convened not to claim conquest, but to draft terms. Delegations were sent to surviving Dominion governors, not with ultimatums of servitude, but with a single unyielding demand. Never again. Never another colony seized. Never another human life taken without consequence. The punishment had been delivered. Now the lesson must endure. Treaties were drawn, binding the Dominion's remnants under strict conditions. They would disarm, pay reparations, and cede key star systems as neutral zones. Humanity's fleets did not linger as occupiers. They departed as executioners who had finished their work. The ruins left behind carried a message more permanent than flags. In the Galactic Council, fear became quiet compliance. Species that had once sneered at Earth now signed treaties of non-interference, hoping to avoid becoming the next example. The chamber where laughter once dismissed the noisy primitives now echoed with silence whenever Terran envoys appeared. Humanity had become a paradox, too young to be respected, yet too dangerous to be ignored. Their brutality had elevated them into the upper echelons of power without a single seat demanded. Influence was not granted. It was taken, carved from the bones of the Dominion. Among council corridors, a whispered title emerged, never spoken aloud in session, but always understood. The species you do not cross. Humanity had reshaped the balance of the galaxy, not by seeking empire, but by ensuring survival through fear. And that fear settled over the stars like a new law, stunned into silence. The Galactic Council gathered once more, its grand chamber illuminated by pale starlight. Delegates filed into their seats with none of the pomp or chatter that once defined their assemblies. On the central display, the war's final recordings unfolded. Dominion capitals burning, war fleets scattered, and human fleets withdrawing with cold precision. No speeches followed. No debates rose. The chamber was drowned in silence, as though every voice feared that to speak of Earth was to summon its wrath. The Dominion's envoy was absent. His empire no longer existed. In his place, hollow requests for aid echoed from refugee broadcasts, looping endlessly across council channels. None dared to answer them. The council's failure to act had left billions to their fate. And still, the humans had not demanded seats, tribute, or recognition. Their silence was louder than conquest. At last, an elder delegate rose, her eyes reflecting centuries of memory. "We thought them children," she whispered. "But children do not carry the weight of war as a birthright. We thought them reckless, yet it is we who have grown complacent." They reminded us of what survival costs. No one challenged her. The chamber remained still, each species lost in private fear. The humans had waged war with a clarity and ferocity unseen in 10 millennia. They had not expanded their empire, but they had reshaped the order of the galaxy. From that day, the Council adopted a new unspoken rule. Treaties could be bent, borders could be disputed, but Earth was not to be provoked. And so, whenever the name Terran arose in council halls, words failed. Silence reigned. It was the silence of respect. It was the silence of fear. It was the silence humanity had earned.